Hello and welcome to Gilli Pong Analyses stuff. I am here to analyze stuff henceforth. I'm not analyzing atheism anymore. Even though I will be talking about it every now and then, I'm not going to direct my analysis strictly on atheism. So I'm going to analyze stuff. I just witnessed a wonderful debate that I wanted to go into, and without any further ado, without any intro, I am going to go straight to the point. And it is a debate between MadebyJimbob, who's a Christian, versus Mike Brigandi, who is an atheist. Sen Shapiro is the moderator in this debate, and it's from the Crucible channel, Andrew Wilson and co. So, in this debate, it's very broad. So it's just atheism versus Christianity. I watched this debate, not live, but just after it got released, I think. And I had it in the background. I was kind of listening to it. And what I noticed in this is that there is a fundamental understanding that is missing from the atheistic perspective. And that fundamental understanding is the difference between what is material and what is immaterial. What is the thing that you can metrically or empirically prove with evidence, with measures, versus the things that you cannot prove, that you cannot empirically measure. And therefore, you have to grab into creating a belief system. And that is therefore my proof or my testimony to the fact that atheism is a belief system, even though they don't believe that is true. So, I skipped into this 5 minutes. The intros are kind of done, but I will share all of the channels involved in the description, and a link to this video so you can watch it for yourself. But I'm just gonna go through it and allow it to sink in and stop when I feel like I have something to say.
Any big ideas, I like to get in there and talk with people like Mike. Mike, thanks for being here, and that's about it.
All right, thank you guys both for being here. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Before we get into it, I want to remind you guys one more time, send those super chats in either on YouTube or the Dono chat link, which is pinned in the top of the live chat. We will get to all of them if you want to ask questions to either debater, and if you want to call in and ask questions directly, you can do so by getting a stream link from the Discord mods. You can call in, ask your question directly at the end of the stream. Be sure to get in there quick because a lot of times the queue fills up and we can't get to everybody. We want to try to make sure to keep this under 3 hours if we can. So, gentlemen, you've both been briefed backstage. We did agree that Mike will be opening first, so you'll get 7 minutes for an opening statement. Whenever you're ready, Mike, go ahead.
Great. So first of all, thanks again for having me on, and thanks to my opponent for being here. So today's debate topic is atheism versus Christianity. Now, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any gods. And I believe that there are some gods, especially the Christian one, that are definitionally unable to exist, meaning they entail logical contradictions or inconsistencies. So today, I will point out these logical inconsistencies, contradictions, and absurdities in Jimbob's theistic view. And not only is there an overwhelming lack of evidence for the Christian God, but there are a myriad of issues and fallacies when it comes to theistic morality, dualism, free will, transcendentals, all of which are typically baked into Christian theology. And hopefully tonight we can address these issues. Now, one of the main issues is a very simple form of the evidential problem of evil. And the premise one goes, God being all-powerful gets everything it desires. Premise two, God desires all people to go to heaven. And from this, we can conclude that if all people do not go to...
Sorry for stopping here, but I have to point out the fact that he is talking about these transcendental arguments, logic, and all these different elements that are pretty hard to prove empirically. and using logic, which is something that comes from God in the Christian perspective. Because logic is not something that you can measure, but you use it and you appeal to it. So why do they do that if they cannot find any evidence of it except by using the mind, which is also something that is not measurable? It's very hard to find the mind. Where is the mind? What is the mind? Where does the mind come from? Some say it's a materialistic neurons firing together that wire together, creating a consistent view of who we are, ourself, all these things. But these are all immaterial elements that cannot be used if you have a materialistic mindset. So it's very interesting that he goes down this. Yeah, I think somebody has mentioned that this is like our atheism on Reddit. You know, it's like a degree in there where you talk about these basic fundamental things that we have been seeing in other videos that I've made, where they bring up, 1,000 gods versus one god, using fallacies like, 99% of people don't believe in it, therefore it isn't true. This is a fallacy. So, in this case, I feel like his opening statement thus far is trying to prove something that is kind of not provable by his perspective of being an atheistic materialist.
Go to heaven, then either God failed at actualizing his desired outcome, hence is not all powerful, or God does not desire everyone to go to heaven, hence not being all good. Pick your poison.
It's funny that he uses the word desire here, because desire is a man thing. It's not a God thing. When I mean that, it's like you as a human being in a body have the lower extremities of your body that create desire. But you also have the higher parts of your body, your being, which have different kinds of desires. I mentioned this before. The lower you get, the more lust, the more gluttony, the more, this sodomy thing that is going on, being proud of being a sodomite. This desire-based understanding of who we are doesn't apply to God, because God is not a human being. He gave us this body and experience that we are having to be able to fight the desires. So the fallacy that is here is personifying God as a human being, and that is like a very easy thing to use as an atheist. You create a concept on your mind that there's this sky daddy, this entity that has a face and has a long beard, but that is not the Christian perspective. It's a lot deeper than that.
The second issue is divine hiddenness. It seems that the entire point of God under Christianity, the entire reason why God created this world, is that he wants a relationship with his creation. But if God desires a relationship with me, why doesn't he reveal himself to me? Surely he has revealed himself to other people, as Christians claim he supposedly came down 2,000 years ago and did just that. These revelations have even convinced people of God without affecting their free will to believe. So you can't just use the free will defense there. If God is omniscient, he could clearly reveal himself to me in a way that he knows would convince me. Yet, no sign of it. Now, some may say, well, you have to be open-minded, Mike. You open your heart.
This is a point that is very interesting, It's like if you're a programmer and you're programming some program, You use your mind and you use your intellect to program it in a certain way. And let's just take the AI example, ChatGPT. In ChatGPT, there are a lot of leftist people creating that in Silicon Valley. You know, the blue-haired, purple-haired people that have a certain idea about gender, have a certain idea about this and that. So if you're asking ChatGPT for something, you're going to get that perspective. Because the programming of the AI is being done by people that have that perspective. So when you're an atheist and you live your life like that, you can live your whole life like that. And that's fine. Nobody's stopping you. The only thing that you have to realize, using your own intellect, is to understand what it is to be human. And the Christian perspective adds a dimension to that, which is logic, reason, souls, who we are, why are we here, what is the meaning of this. When the atheist programs his being not to prove that. So when you understand that aspect of what atheism really is, it's the programming of who we are. Like Sam Harris, don't have any free will. There's this malevolent genius next in the other room could be just sending us impulses of what to do. And you know, this way of understanding who we are, when the intelligence starts working against you and giving you this lack of meaning and understanding of what is going on, then of course you can just live your life like that. And nobody's going to convince you otherwise. Because you have determined how the programming of yourself is going to be. And that's the atheistic perspective. The self is God. You can control your own self. Therefore, you can be whatever you want to be. And that's the Luciferian perspective, trying to be God. Trying to be, that's the whole thing, that's the whole point. So when you map it out and you understand the scripture and you read it, not with the atheistic mindset, this is all bullshit, he's evil, blah, 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 you just try to absorb the understanding of it. The more you read, the more you understand. And the more you push it away, the less you understand. And that is the fallacy that I feel is living your life from this perspective can grant you a lot more suffering in your life.
Heart to be open. You're not looking hard enough. Well, I am open to there being a God, but if that's not convincing for you, surely the audience could reasonably agree that there are some people in the world who are honestly looking for God, but still have not experienced a revelation. Even though there's nothing stopping God from doing so, we're left with two options then. Right? Either God doesn't want a relationship with me, which poses a contradiction from its good nature, or it doesn't exist. But the issues don't stop there. Proponents for Christianity will typically ask a secular person, is morality objective? If the secular person responds back with no, the theist will typically go, aha, see, your morality is preference-based. I win because my morality is objective. Well, the first problem is that morality being preference-based has no hindrance on our capacity to build a meta-ethical or normative ethical framework. But more importantly, Christianity claims to have something it doesn't, objectivity. Not only have Christian ethics changed through time, as we see from the Old Covenant to the New Covenant, but definitionally, God is a subject, hence could not ground normative ethics in any objective way. God's morality is God's preference too. We can also point out contradictions within the system. God is supposedly all good, then drowns the world in a flood, including innocent babies, or when it commands genocide in 1 Samuel 15 and allows sex slavery in Exodus 21:7, SA in Numbers 31, etc., which even most Christians would disagree with and would say is wrong in any context. How could there be such disagreement if Christian ethics is so-called perfect? The truth is, no ethical system is perfect, especially when considering all people have different views, but that's the strength of a secular system. It listens to all points and constantly strives to reach total moral agreement, rooted in as many.
Now he's going into the realm of ethics, and you see exactly what I pointed out in the beginning, whether it's objective or subjective. What part of ethics is objective. It's like when you live your life and you have no children and you have no animals, for instance, like a dog. Like when you have a dog, you're constantly trying to teach the dog ethics, especially in my case. Like, don't bark at the old woman, don't growl at the young child. Try to limit your beast instincts, but it's a really hard thing to do. But you can, and then you have to apply these ethics towards yourself. Are you going to beat the dog into submission until it does whatever you want out of fear of getting beaten? Or are you going to elevate the discussion between the dog and you, not the discussion, maybe the communication between you and him, where you are helping the dog understand with love? This is an ethical dilemma, in my perspective. And it's objective. But you are trying to describe the objective towards your own being and therefore applying it out there. So it's subjective and objective at the same time. It's not either or. So the Christian's perspective is always to try to apply the ethical system that comes from Jesus Christ. When confronted with violence and you're hit on the cheek, give the other cheek. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. When you're on the cross being killed. Having this understanding of being the perfect version of yourself, which is what God wants from you. And I think Plato was some individual that in that time, in the Neoplatonics, this matter is evil and God is good. What is consciousness? How can we describe consciousness? How can we program consciousness in AI? The consciousness part of our being is like the gravity part of our existence. It can't be seen out there with the apple falling off the tree. But why is it? Where does it come from? Is it all this idea coming from NASA and Pentagon and the ISS and Neil deGrasse Tyson and the quantum physicists, or, what's quantum gravity? Like, all these questions are unanswered. But in the Christian's perspective, it's all answered. You know that you can rely on these laws of ethics, of logic, if you just try to learn and educate yourself about them. But if you're always fighting this, and you're going to the lowest common denominator, or you're trying to 80% of the crowd think, that's something that is a real thing. The crowd isn't always right. Democracy is choosing, a political party that is usually not the political party that I want to choose. So this way of using secular humanism, where you are trying to apply ethics based on the idea that the mass is going to tell you what is right, they're always going to end up in some dilemma in my perspective.
Many facts as possible, whereas Christian ethics is forever stuck in the time of barbarism. And finally, as a methodological naturalist, my position is that it's reasonably assumable to say that all that exists is a natural world, meaning within the realms of space, time, matter, and energy. I don't believe there's anything beyond the natural world. However, I am open to there being something beyond.
Space, time, matter, and energy. Everything is in that realm. There's nothing outside of that realm. But I remember reading a book about the ancient philosophers. There was an Icelandic philosopher who kind of gathered all the books together. And he was a believer in God. His name, Gunnar Dahl. He was very, very famous. I used to go to a coffee shop and I saw him sitting with a few of his intellectual buddies every weekend. And that person was extremely... He got me out of the atheistic perspective at a very young age. Because everything that exists outside of what he spoke of, space, time, matter, and what he mentioned, that is God. And that's how the book started. And I'll try to find the book, but I think it's only in Icelandic, so it doesn't really matter for this audience. But when you are always trying to empirically measure everything, you're going to stop being able to empirically measure the self, empirically measure the logic or the ethics, or you can't empirically measure the soul, consciousness. You're always going to fail. But you're always appealing to these things, using yourself, using the soul, using the logic and ethics, because they are God-given to us, even though you don't believe so.
Beyond it, granted, the evidence is sufficient enough. However, I would be happy to make the case as to why naturalism is much more likely than my opponent's theistic view. Christianity makes specific empirical claims of a 6-day creation, a global flood, Adam and Eve, which all could be successfully refuted scientifically. The main one being that the age of the Earth is verifiably 4.5 billion years old via zircon crystal dating, and we have a working nebular model.
Yeah. Now he's appealing to authority when it comes to how old the Earth is. Really? Based on what? Carbon dating. Based on mathematical equations. Going to the Big Bang. Where even Roger Penrose, the biggest of the biggest in the atheistic scientist philosophy, is not knowing even what gravity is or why gravity is. And we are stardust that have become monkeys, and therefore, like going from one singular organism into this. This isn't proof. There's no proof for it. This is the likeliest theory, according to them. And there is a difference between truth, what is really going on, and the likeliest theory. And when he's appealing to the likeliest theory, it's just like a Christian person appealing to the belief that he has. Whether it's an evangelist Christian or a Protestant Christian or whatever. But the Orthodox view is based on truth that has been delegated not only through scripture, but through word of mouth, the telling of a tale, the church, and how, so even though the tale in the Bible is mentioning numerical numbers, it's very difficult to say this is the scientific measurement of these empirical numbers. 7 days. And it's like, what is time? According to them, time is the time it takes for the Earth to go around itself and around the sun. And then the sun is circulating a black hole in the middle of the Milky Way. That takes, 24,000 years to go into one circle around there. But this is all graphical fiction, poetry. So like when you go into quantum physics, you're a poet, according to them. So he's always appealing to something that is his belief.
Model which accounts for Earth's formation and planetary disk. A global flood is scientifically and logistically impossible as the Bible describes it. There are salt deposits that are older than millions of years old, meaning they've never seen flooding or even significant rainfall in millions of years. The geological strata completely contradicts a global flood. And how could penguins get from the tallest mountains in Turkey to Antarctica? Did they waddle across the Arabian deserts, all of Africa, then swim 2,000 miles to Antarctica with zero trace? And biological evolution, being a proven fact, demonstrates that there cannot have been a first person. And you may go, oh, well, Mike, I believe in evolution.
Now he's saying like this biological evolution is a proven fact. Is it? Is it really? Where's the missing link? What is the missing link? Search for that.
As a theist still. But this raises more issues than it solves, because you have a magic being who existed for an eternity and then arbitrarily decided to make one particular ape species of humans, watching them go through 4 billion years of needless evolution, imposing mosaic laws on a random population of people.
Okay, here is how I view this through my belief system. My belief system is we are apes and we're primates and we have DNA with chimpanzees but there's never been a species turned into another species in observable time. So what is he appealing to? 5.4 billion year old Earth's history. How does he know it's billion years? Was the Earth closer to the Sun, causing it to go faster? You know, there's so many unspoken of questions that haven't really been answered at all. So he's just appealing to science. Science! I believe in science. It's the same thing. It's belief.
When the immediate preceding generation of that group was not under Mosaic law, not even seen as God's people. Animal suffering is also another major issue, as Christianity typically holds that animals have no free will nor moral agency. Yet inherent to their nature in the wild is immense amounts of suffering. Seems antithetical to loving beings' design. The fact that science works incredibly well and has enabled us to understand the origin of life, natural selection, consciousness, and the cosmos to a sufficient enough degree to render a Christian God unnecessary and even contradictory to the state of affairs of
now he's using consciousness as if that is some scientific provable thing. He has no freaking idea what that is. All the AI people have just abandoned trying to program consciousness because it's too complicated. They can't figure it out. Even the ChatGPT, when you're pointing something at, it doesn't understand what you're saying. It's an algorithm trying to find the rightest thing that has been answered to this thing, according to a collected database that has been scanning the Washington Post and New York Times and whatever. That perspective. That corporate-owned media, which is the leftist perspective, the atheistic scientist perspective. ChatGPT doesn't have any preferable view of Christianity because it's the Antichrist system. If you don't get that, I'm sorry. You have to see it. There's a beast system. And it's coming and it's taking us over and it's going to control pretty much everything in your life. If you don't reject these ideas coming from these secular humanists, these atheists that want to, take over the world with their theories about what's going on, which are so fallible.
The entire observable universe is why I think atheism is exceedingly more likely over Christianity.
All right. Thank you for that opening statement, Mike. You still had a little bit of time to spare, but appreciate it very much. Jimbob, whenever you're ready, you have 7 minutes on the clock for your opening statement. Go ahead.
All right, thanks.
I'm going to stop it here. The video has reached 30 minutes. I'm going to keep it like that. And I'm going to split this into a few parts because it's 3 hours long. So hopefully it will be a little series. Because I liked this debate. And I really want to understand the dilemma that happens between them in this debate. And I think it's going to be very interesting, like when we dive deeper into it. But it's time to shine. So let's glow. All in the
Gilli Pong.
Analyses.